Welcome, phobophiles. This is Tales of the Midnight Hour. I'm your host, Nicole Nightfall, here to guide you into the shadows and through the midnight hour. Prepare yourself for tales that will haunt your dreams and conjure your deepest fears. Listen closely as we step into the darkness together. Join me in the telling of how to write a horror story, where an overly confident writer unveils his formula for creating spine-chilling tales, only to find himself caught in a horror story of his own.
So you want to know the secret to writing a good horror story? Not just a good horror story, but a great horror story? Well, listen up, kiddies, because Papa's cracked the goddamn code. A formula, if you will. This isn't about blood and guts. Any hack can vomit that BS. I'm talking about a real horror that will leave them trembling in their seats. I've read them all, King, Poe, Lovecraft. They're all right, sure, but they can't produce that blood-curdling, skin-crawling fear that a real horror junkie is looking for. That's where I shine. I've spent years perfecting my craft, and I'm about to show you who the true king of horror is. So step right up and watch a true mastermind at work. Trust me, this is brilliant. First, to craft a spine-chilling story, you need to introduce a set of rules. These aren't just a typical set of rules. They are rules to be broken and are destined to turn the character's world upside down. These rules don't even have to make sense. In fact, the more obscure, the better. Always leave the TV on after dark. Rounds must be completed at midnight, 2:15, 4:30, and 7 a.m. Do not enter the break room alone. Never look into a mirror after sunset. Never open door 237. Avoid the basement stairs around 3 a.m. Exact time unknown. And if the phone rings, do not answer it. Okay, now for the fun part. You'll set the scene for your story and introduce this set of rules that seem more like a prank than protocol. Your character doesn't buy in and thinks it's all a joke. But the joke's on him. Those rules will turn his world upside down and into full-blown terror. Let's name our character John. John's first night as an attendant at Forgotten Times retirement home begins with second shift's departure.
Here you go, John. Here's your name badge and the rules for third shift.
Sarah said, her eyes gleaming in the dim lobby light.
The residents are usually quiet, but the place gets a bit lively after hours.
She chuckled at the joke that John would soon understand.
Thanks. I'll try not to let them get too rowdy,
he joked, scanning the list. John pinned his name badge to his shirt and grabbed the list of rules.
TV on all night, rounds at these odd times. Get out of here with your pranks.
Sarah shrugged.
Believe what you want. But Evelyn, the lady you replaced, swore she saw strange things when she didn't follow those rules.
Now here's how it goes down. Your character plays along, chuckling at the absurdity until curiosity gets the best of him. A slip up here, a misstep there, brushing off the strange occurrences until it's too late. They dismiss the signs as superstition, and that's when the real nightmare begins. That's when my formula bares its teeth, turning their world upside down in ways never expected. After Sarah left, John settled into a routine. The TV droned on, casting shadows across the lobby. He chuckled to himself, thinking of the absurdity of it all. What a prankster! But he followed the rules all the same. John completed his first set of rounds. Hours had passed without incident until an old horror movie began playing on the television. Suddenly, the TV froze and erupted into loud static. Damn, John muttered, fumbling with the remote. He tried to change the channel, but the static remained. When he attempted to turn off the TV, nothing happened. The sound of the static was deafening, so John reached behind and unplugged it. In the reflection of the dead screen, he swore he saw the silhouette of a woman. But when he turned around, nothing was there. Creepy horror flick. Now, here's where the story really gets interesting. The character just had his first sighting, dismissed it, and things are going to build from here. Interestingly, as I was typing this, I heard a crackle of static from my own television. See? This story is even getting to me. I told you the formula works. I'll just turn that back off. No need for distractions anyway. Now back to the story. Before he had time to think about the reflection in the TV, the break room phone rang, shattering the silence. John hesitated, glancing uneasily at the list of rules, then headed for the phone.
Forgotten Times retirement home?
John asked, unsure of himself. A distant, crackling voice whispered through the receiver.
Come find me on the second floor, John.
He could barely make out the words. But damn if that voice didn't sound sexy. John rolled his eyes. Very funny. Who is this? A prank on the newbie, huh? The line went silent. John dismissed it as a prank, but as he continued his rounds, the seductive voice replayed in his brain,
Come find me.
and curiosity got the best of him. When John reached the second floor corridor, hesitancy tightened in his chest. The hallway stretched out before him, dim and silent. Every step echoed through its halls, each door a portal to the unknown. With a mind of its own, John's hand reached for the nearest doorknob. With a deep breath, John pushed it open and stepped into the dim room. At this point, folks, we're ready for our climax. The raw tension has been building, each broken rule building to a pivotal moment. They've shrugged off the warnings, and now the inevitable happens. This is where the formula ignites its final reaction, unleashing a cascade of terror and chaos. Just as I started to write again, I heard a creak from my study door. As I crossed the room to close it, a shudder ran down my spine. I glanced in the mirror, seeing my reflection staring back at me, and I had a sense of déjà vu. I shut the door and hurried back to my desk, laughing at my overactive imagination, my mind playing tricks on me. John pushed open the door of room 237 and stepped in. Expecting something supernatural, he nervously chuckled to himself. The room seemed perfectly ordinary, just an empty room. But as he stepped further into the room, the lights flickered, and the air felt heavy. To his left, a strikingly seductive middle-aged woman lay on the bed. She smiled and beckoned him over. John hesitated, taken aback by her allure. He approached the bed and noticed her clothes in a crumpled heap, with a name tag, Evelyn, atop the pile. This must be the person I replaced. He climbed into the bed, and they became entangled in a moment of passion. He unbuttoned his pants and slid inside her, feeling her warmth wrap around him. Their breathing synchronized, and he lost himself in her embrace. Just as he was about to climax, he looked into her eyes and the room shifted. A chill filled the air and the woman's beauty melted away. Her skin sagged, her eyes sank into their sockets, and her seductive smile twisted into a ghastly grin. She began to laugh, increasing in volume with each breath. God, I'm good. What a climax, if you know what I mean. Now, brace yourself for the plot twist. This is where the reader's mind is utterly blown. This is the moment they realize you're a true horror master. Now pull the rug out from under them. John stumbled back and raced for the door, but as he crossed the threshold, reality twisted around him like a malevolent force. He stepped into the office of Forgotten Times retirement home, momentarily confused.
Here you go, John. Here's your name badge and the rules for third shift.
Sarah said, her eyes gleaming in the dim lobby light.
The residents are usually quiet, but the place gets a bit lively after hours.
She chuckled at the joke that John would soon understand.
Thanks. I'll try not to let them get too rowdy.
You see that? That is a goddamn tour de force. A mindgasm of horror. The culmination of every spine-chilling detail perfectly executed. I stood up from my desk, eager to take a break from the masterpiece I had crafted. Having outdone myself again, I smiled, turning the door handle. I stepped through the threshold and into my office. I stood, staring at the blank laptop screen with total confusion. I stepped back through the door and into my office again, greeted with the same dim lighting and blank laptop screen. I tried again to leave the room, then a fourth and a fifth time. Each attempt brought me right back to my study. the laptop screen blank, as if waiting for me to begin. A shiver ran down my spine and the memory faded. What just happened? Am I losing my mind? I sat down at my laptop with fingers poised and an unease in the pit of my stomach. Then inspiration struck. So you want to know the secret to writing a good horror story? Not just a good horror story, but a great horror story? Well, listen up, kiddies, because Papa's cracked the goddamn code. I glanced at the mirror across the room, catching a glimpse of my reflection. For a moment, I saw a stranger's face staring back, frozen in terror. My heart raced in a panic, but I forced myself to keep going. Words flowed from my fingers and the narrative unfolded. A goddamn masterpiece in the making. I continued to write, a nagging unease settling in the pit of my stomach, a feeling that my words were binding more than just paper. Now comes the surprise ending. John stumbled back and raced for the door, but as he crossed the threshold, reality twisted around him like a malevolent force. He stepped into the office of Forgotten Times Retirement Home. There you have it, my final stroke of genius. The character is caught in a loop, endlessly reliving his descent into madness. It's all in the formula. I stood from my desk, eager to step away from the masterpiece I had crafted. I glanced in the mirror, nearly expecting to see John's face, but it was just me. Although my eyes looked different, like there was something they didn't want to witness, I shook my head. This story is even getting to me. God, I'm good. What a climax, if you know what I mean. I stepped out of my study and sat down at my desk. So, you want to know the secret to writing a good horror story?